Tanzania and albinism have a complicated relationship stretching back as far as history can tell. It's a strange topic, and here I intend to give some insight into the reality of what it means to have albinism in the country, and why such ritual crime involving this demographic is so prolific. But first of all, some context on albinism. Albinism is a congenital genetic disorder with some interesting symptoms. It's relatively rare in the West, with a rate of 1 in around 20,000 births, but its prevalence is much higher in Tanzania and the surrounding areas, and is generally understood to be about 1 in 5,000. Whilst that second percentage still doesn't look particularly impressive, there are 6,977 registered people with albinism in Tanzania, and estimates place the undocumented population at 170,000. Both of these are no small amount of people. Moving on to the condition itself. There are two types of albinism, the first being ocular, and the second, oculocutaneous. In this video I speak about oculocutaneous albinism, the most common and visible type affecting the eyes, skin and hair. Symptoms include lack or total absence of melanin, meaning that they have very little pigmentation in their eyes, skin and hair. Lower melanin levels also leave PWAs with an intimidatingly higher risk of skin cancer, so much so that a South African study of 111 PWAs revealed that nearly 25% of them contracted it over some point of their lifetime. The other major symptom is very poor eyesight. This ranges in severity depending upon the specific type of albinism, with some able to function essentially normally and others technically having sight but with such a degree of impairment that they are legally classed as blind. You might have noticed that I'm using the acronym PWA. This refers to people, or person, with albinism. Whilst it would be much less of a mouthful to say albino, that particular word is used by some as an insult. Many PWAs find the word to be derogatory, and as a sort of verbal trap that encapsulates their entire identity within the context of their disorder, so PWA is generally considered to be a more respectful term. Now that we've covered all that, let's talk a little bit more about ritual crime and exactly what I mean by it. Ritual crime is an umbrella term used within sociology, criminology and anthropology to refer to the repeated carrying out of any or all of physical assaults, psychological assaults or sexual assaults combined with the use of ceremonies and symbols. Tanzanian PWAs are subject to widespread and exceptionally cruel ritual crime, where their body parts are cut up and used as charms or ground into powders, then sold by witch doctors under the pretense of bringing good fortune, prosperity or sexual fulfillment. Occasionally blood is mixed into potions to be drank. These practices are awful and incredibly expensive. On the black market, a single PWA limb can be priced at up to $2,000. A full set of limbs and facial features can sell for $75,000, and allegations have been made by the charity Under the Same Sun claiming that live PWAs could fetch $350,000. At face value, this seems insane. Why does this still occur today? And most crucially, why is it so accepted within Tanzanian society? To examine this, we first have to understand the importance of witchcraft in Tanzanian society, as well as the particulars of African society and history as a whole. PWA mythologization has been present in African belief for as long as we can establish. It's very difficult to find a comprehensive history of their beliefs and practices, since African law traditionally has very few written records. The people prefer to pass on knowledge by word of mouth. This has led to an incredibly high variety of beliefs around albinism, including, but not limited to, that they are cursed, sometimes with the stipulation that not only is the PWA themselves cursed, but their entire family too. That the mother had sex with Satan, or cheated on her husband with a white man. The PWAs are ghosts and cannot be killed, or are created when a woman has sex with a ghost. The albinism can be spread either by spending time with those who have the condition, or by touch. The intercourse with a PWA child or adult can cure HIV in an individual. And most crucially in Tanzania, the PWA body parts are lucky. New ideas come about constantly, and one area's views might be radically different to another's. As you can imagine, tackling the ideological roots of this issue is difficult when there are very few concrete foundational beliefs causing the problems. The only constant seems to be a vague concept that PWAs are magical, or at the very least their bodies contain magical properties. Since the only way of stopping all ritual crime involving PWAs is to dispel the myths surrounding them, and those myths change all the time, it seems like an impossible undertaking, especially when politicians themselves are also known to be believers. This brings me on to witch doctors. Pew Research Center found in 2010 that 93% of Tanzanians believe in witchcraft. Witch doctors are a powerful force in their society, particularly in the intensely spiritual region of Sukumaland. Here, Waganga, a regionally specific subset of witch doctors, create, prescribe, and sell charms made from PWA body parts. This area is close to Lake Victoria, and as well as being heavily involved in fishing, is also the epicenter of the mining industry. Sukumaland is where a large amount of PWA mutilations and murders occur. On to African belief. The crux of most African belief revolves around energy. Different things are said to contain different energy strengths, and these energies can be transferred between people and things in a variety of ways. It's difficult to be more specific than this, since the complexities of the beliefs differ so greatly regionally, even within short distances. There is also a focus on luck, as well as the implication that people can do things to increase their good fortune. Charms, potions, and engagement in other rituals such as spells are said to do this. Unfortunately for Tanzanian PWAs, witchcraft is the same as most major religions in that its practices and teachings alter through time and in response to events experienced by its followers, which is similar to how Christianity has so many denominations today. This point is important when coming back to how the Tanzanian perception of albinism has been shaped by witchcraft, and how the ritual crimes have really been brought to light in recent years. Once again, before I get into this, I want to stress that establishing direct cause and effect is exceptionally difficult in Tanzanian history. That said, there was a spike in albinism-centred ritual crime in the 2000s within Tanzania, and a contributing factor towards this appears to be the privatisation of fishing within Lake Victoria. Lake Victoria mostly lies in Tanzania, and fishing represents a huge portion of the nation's GDP. Whilst not all fishing takes place in Lake Victoria, the industry itself accounts for 35% of rural employment, and Lake Victoria is the majority of that. Privatisation and overfishing led to dramatic drops in fishing harvests, so soon beliefs began to surface that fishermen able to obtain larger than normal catches were extraordinarily lucky. This in and of itself isn't untrue, since it was lucky to have a decent catch. However, this belief soon turned into something ugly. As mentioned before, albinism levels in Tanzania are unusually high, and PWAs have impaired eyesight. Poor eyesight means that most do not receive a good education, leading many to take up unskilled labour as a means to survive, many ending up fishing in Lake Victoria. This means that, statistically, more fishermen with albinism will bring in these lucky catches. Since there was already an idea that PWAs were cursed, it wouldn't follow for witch doctors to suddenly begin claiming that PWAs were lucky. Instead, witch doctors took their evidence, so to speak, of their lucky fishing catches and began peddling the idea that PWA body parts bring good luck. Since this was already a latent belief in many areas, reinforced through countless years of mythologization, it didn't take much for the idea to catch on. Soon, the concept that the body parts of a PWA could bring good luck to the buyer spread beyond the fishing industry into the beliefs of miners, then into the rest of the population, creating a huge spike of violence. The impact of this is immense. Between 2000 and 2015, there were at least 80 recorded murders of PWA Tanzanians. In 2018 alone, 30 PWAs were killed, and we have no way of knowing what goes on unreported. There are no reliable statistics regarding mutilations, attempted assaults, or immediate post-birth infanticides. These numbers are the tip of a cruel and bloody iceberg. Alongside and fueling this, countless strange beliefs sprung up about what their magical body parts could do. There are too many to list, but they include those on the quote on screen, as well as many others, including, but certainly not limited to, fishermen sprinkling PWA hair into the water to encourage fish into their nets, miners believing that their blood detects metal, or that burying a finger close to where they begin digging will bring them good luck, or even burying an arm that will then turn into diamonds. The drinking potions made from their appendages will make you rich, or their powdered bone will bring success. Politicians, especially around election season, seek witch doctor help this way. Of course, the trading in human body parts and symbolic gestures and charms really perfectly fits the definition of ritual crime, but perhaps the most horrific aspect of all of this is the way in which these body parts are collected. Frequently, family, neighbours and friends sell PWA peers to witch doctors, either to be mutilated, usually by chopping off the hands, arms, feet, legs or facial features, dismembered altogether, or sold alive. It appears that the witch doctors very rarely carry out these actions themselves, instead employing others to do it, or simply purchasing the body parts from those who have already committed the atrocities. Since PWA body parts fetch such an enormous price, and given previous allegations, it seems unlikely that politicians and people of high societal standing are not directly involved in this trade, exposing the grim reality of how rituals can transcend glass in gruesome ways, from a poor fisherman buying single strands of hair to sprinkle into the water, to prominent figures buying entire limbs to use as good luck. This is referred to as muti, translated to medicine murder, and it seems unlikely to stop. Here's a portion of a clip from the BBC, where a young woman called Mary Ann speaks about her experiences of peers turning on her.
Watu usiku huo walipovamia wakavunja mlango, wakaingia chumbani kwangu, wakanikata mikono yangu yote miwili. Nikageuka haraka. Nilipogeuka haraka, nilikutanisha macho na mtu ambaye namfahamu kabisa, ambaye ni jirani, ambaye nimeishi naye nafikiri zaidi ya miaka 10, ambaye alikuwa ni jirani yangu wa karibu pamoja na familia yangu, na yeye alikuwa ameshikilia panga.
Stories like this are not uncommon, and it's only in the last few years that PWA has made it into government representation. For instance, however, even amongst those elected, there is still a lot of fear. Salum has spoken openly about being followed by a group of 5 individuals, some of whom are thought to have military training, and have been pursuing him since his election to MP. Whilst he is more known and therefore is a greater target, the fact remains that he has access to protection and resources that the average PWA could only dream of. His speaking out of his own fears gives some insight into how terrifying and desperate the lives of the invisible thousands must be, those without police protection and vulnerable from compromised sight, who cannot trust the people around them, or may have even simply been killed at birth by their parents or siblings. 2008 saw the first news articles about PWA murders, immediately linking them to witchcraft ritual practices and the ritual trade in body parts and live individuals. As I have explained, there are many factors at play to propagate the beliefs that underpin this violence. There are economic, social, but most importantly ideological reasons why this continues, and is likely extended far into the past. And until these are resolved, there will never be a complete end to the madness. But with rituals constantly evolving, it appears that Tanzanian activists, along with the rest of the world, are at a loss of what to do. I've included some other videos, as well as some articles all from various sources for if you'd like to learn more, as well as the link to the donation page of Under the Same Sun, which I personally think is a very informative and worthy course. All of those will be in the description. Thank you for watching this video.